There's a thin line between freedom and prison, and no one knows this better than my guest today, Teresa Njoroge. In just a minute, your life turns upside down. Teresa was living life just like any other ordinary Kenyan, climbing up the corporate ladder, but one decision would change her life forever. Teresa was sentenced to 4 years in prison for bank fraud, but ended up serving 1 year after finally being cleared and acquitted from her charges. She's here with me today to share her story in hopes of changing many other people's lives who might have gone through the same thing. You're watching Politically Correct, and I'm your host, Maya Hayakawa. Teresa, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for taking your time to come here on the show today, and most importantly, sharing your story. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you.
I must say, you look lovely.
Thank you.
I love red, so red is one of my favorite colors. So
thank you.
The color really suits you really well.
Thank you, Maya. Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. And you know, the first question that I'd really like to ask is, in terms of your life, what was your life like before you actually served your time in prison? Could you just paint that picture for me? What were you doing? What was going on? What was life like?
Life was good. I loved going to work as a banker. I had goals, dreams, I had a vision, and meeting my targets at work made me feel good because I was going to achieve the goals that I had in life. Mm-hmm. And it was all laid out, all planned out. The financial freedom that I wanted, and meeting the other social economic needs that I had and dreams in society. You know, a good citizen going on about their lives, contributing in the growth of this country. Yeah.
So you would say your life was good. You were happy, and you were and you were basically enjoying life, just like us all. What happened for you to actually have ended up being charged and actually have ended up in prison and for bank fraud? What happened?
While I was working with one of the international banks here in Nairobi, I happened to unfortunately handle a fraudulent transaction. By the time I came to learn that it was a fraudulent transaction, the money had already been stolen, and the customer whose money went missing came complaining that there was some money missing in their account, and we started investigations. I actually moved on to another international bank, and thinking and hoping that the persons who were behind the fraud would be brought to book. But as I was going about my job, I was arrested and told that I had to carry the cross in regards to that transaction. We went through, I immediately got terminated from my employment and went through the court system for a whole 2 years, 2 months. And as much as they dropped the charges for theft, 3 charges of theft that I had, I was convicted to imprisonment based on the fact that I might have known that the transaction was fraudulent. Yes, I felt there was a miscarriage of justice, but I continued to fight while behind bars. And fortunately, after serving a prison sentence of a year, I later on got cleared by the courts of appeal and got vindicated. But as much as that were the case, a lot of things had now changed by the time I got to be cleared.
And take me to that day that they came in and they arrested you. What were you doing in that moment? Were you at work? Were you at home? And what was going through your mind?
It was actually around the 3rd day of resuming work after Christmas holidays. It was on the 7th of January, 2009.
Oh, you remember the date even?
Yes, I remember every moment like it was yesterday. It's still so fresh in my mind. So I had gone out for a customer call, and after the customer call, went back to the bank, and while going through my normal routine of serving other clients and hoping to meet my targets for the day, I got a call, and the call was from an inspector of police from the banking fraud department, and I told him I was in the office, where he came and informed me that I had to leave with them to head to banking fraud unit, where I was going to write a statement and answer a few questions that they had. So I requested that I leave my work with another employee, handover, so I could go with them. And at that point, I started looking for means and ways to go to the banking fraud office, like he had told me. But at that point, he told me, I don't even need to do anything. I just need to follow him, go. There's a car that's waiting for me, and we will drive off. And at that point is when I started, it started sinking into me, everything is not business as usual.
Everything's not okay.
Yes. So we headed off to banking fraud in their car. And when I got to their center, he told me that I was under arrest. And he told me it was because of the fraudulent transaction that I had handled when I was at my previous employer's place. So I went through the recording of the statement, answering the questions that they had. And later that evening, they told me that I wasn't going to go back home. I was actually going to spend my night at Kilimani police station. And now at that point, I had to inform my family, my mom and my dad, what had happened, and my siblings that I wouldn't be going back home. I will be at the police station. And it's because of a fraudulent transaction that I had handled while I was at work. And the following day, I was taken to court and charged with theft, with conspiring to defraud my previous employer. And after pleading not guilty, I was then remanded at Langata Women Remand Section until I could afford bail to get out.
How much was your bail?
I was given a bail of 1 million cash, which I didn't have with me. I had just paid school fees for my siblings and made a couple of other payments. There was no way I was going to pay the 1 million cash that they needed that day. But with the help of relatives and my uncle in particular, and by this time now I had already managed now to get a lawyer, my bail was reduced to 500,000 Kenya shillings, which my uncle paid for me. And now I started the battle of proving my innocence in and out of courts for the next 2 years that followed. Yeah.
And how long did you spend in remand while you were in the remand center?
I stayed at the remand for a whole week.
A week.
Yeah.
And for you, you were fortunate enough to find your bail, so I'm sure it's very often women stay there for years until their court hearing. Is that correct?
It's so correct. I was actually so surprised that while I was battling with how I would raise the 500,000 that now it had been reduced to, there were women who were battling with 1,000 shillings, 2,000 shillings, and they couldn't afford it. And the stories that I had from them were very, very appalling. Like, this is what you're behind bars for? So it was a whole new realization of what's going on in the judicial criminal justice system. It was a whole new door of meeting these women who couldn't afford even 500 shillings to bail themselves out. And yeah, they stay in remand for even 10 to 15 years, especially for serious cases like murder, you know, and for the shorter cases, 4 to 5 years. By the time they're being sentenced, they've even overstayed the period of time that their sentence should be for. But yes, I was very surprised.
I'm sure, and on that day, it was such an ordinary day for you, business as usual. Did it ever cross your mind, as much as you knew that the investigations were going on, and as much as you knew that that reality and that possibility might be there, did you ever imagine that that could actually happen to you?
Never, not in a million years did I think that I would end up behind bars. First and foremost, I was so certain because I'm innocent and I did not participate in the planning about the fraud, I did not steal the money, I would definitely be cleared and they'd find the truth. The last thing that would have crossed my mind was me being behind bars. I didn't even know where the remand or prison or the courts were. I mean, that never occurred to me. I never even thought about it. Yeah.
And that day that you were arrested and you went to the police station, take me through your thoughts. Take me through your feelings. What were you feeling? Were you afraid? Were you angry? What was going through your mind?
I was just wondering how someone could make such a huge mistake. And I kept telling the officers that were with me, you are making such a huge mistake. I'm not the one who planned the fraud. I did not conspire with anybody and I didn't steal this money. How can you make such a big mistake of just arresting me and you have no proof whatsoever? And I tried to even reason with them and wonder where they had come up with this kind of accusation and have the audacity to come for me at work, arrest me, and have me with them. That's what was going through my mind. And I was just wondering, how will I prove to this gentleman who've arrested me that I'm not the one who did this? How will I get myself off this? What is it that I can do to let them know that I did not do this? I actually didn't even foresee the court battle. Yeah.
And I'm just looking at you as an individual, because so many of us, I'm sure, have been in the same situation, maybe not to the extent of bank fraudulent, but we've been stopped by policemen on the side of the road. We've been taken to the police station for, small petty crimes or whatever it may be. And one of the cultures that we have here is of corruption. In that case, when you were in the police station, was there ever that chance where, that insinuation or even just that suggestion where they said, we can make this all go away if you just
no.
pay us some tea? Did they ever suggest that to you?
That never came up until the following day when I was just about to be charged in court. And the officer asked me, do you have 1 million shillings on you? And I said, no, I don't have that kind of money with me. And he said, okay, if you don't have 1 million shillings, you will spend time behind bars. And because everything was happening so fast, it didn't even occur to me what this 1 million shillings was for. It only hit me when the magistrate now asked me if I had the 1 million shillings cash as bail. And later on now, when I was in remand, is when I started thinking to myself, had they talked about this 1 million shillings before? Did they already know? How come the officer asked me about the 1 million shillings cash and then before the magistrate, and it was the same amount that the magistrate asked for? And I was like, in any case, I don't have this kind of money, and I know my parents don't have this kind of money, so let's fight this battle, But it never even crossed my mind, let's talk, let's talk.
That never crossed your mind?
It never crossed my mind.
You didn't think, I could get myself out of this situation?
No. The fact of the matter was, I was innocent. For me, as far as I was concerned, I am innocent. I did not do what you're allegedly insinuating that I did. So my innocence is enough to get me off this. I really did not think, let's talk with these people and get myself off this.
Some people, as much as they are innocent, are like, I'm not willing to take that chance. I'm not just willing to take that chance of ending up in prison. So what really was it that you were like, what gave you that hope that I'm going to go through this system, I'm going to go through this court system? A lot of us know And a lot of Kenyans in general have very little faith in the judiciary, have very little faith in the police system. What gave you that hope that, you know what, I can get myself out of this situation?
Other than the fact that I did not have that kind of money, the 1 million shillings that they had asked for, I believed I would go through the system and pay that price and not get pulled into something that I did not even come up with in the first place, because the fraudsters already planned this. They already stole the money, something that I'm not part of. Now they're not going to drag me, you know, into a system that I didn't even call for. So I had stood my ground that I'm going to stick to what I believe in integrity and my character, and I'm not going to pull into this system now by even trying to protect myself by bribing. That I wasn't going to be able to do. Yeah.
We'll need to take a quick break, but before we take that break, I want to ask one last question. During the 2.5 years when you were going through the remand process, you were going through the court process of going back and forth, up until the time you were actually convicted for the sentencing period, what were you doing during that time? Because you had said that you got terminated from your place of employment.
Yeah.
What were you doing during that time?
It was now life all by myself, in the sense that no one really now wants to handle you. And besides, I was all over the media because,
really?
Yes, you know, and I was now being referred to as the bank thief. So it was very, very difficult to secure any kind of employment. In the meantime, to keep pushing, you know, as I go through the court case.
This is even before
Yes.
you're in prison.
Exactly. So I started experiencing problems financially, emotionally, socially, right from the day I was brought in the media as this person who has defrauded the employer, the bank. And now I had to fend for myself, do small little businesses that I could do to keep sustaining myself, and
even finance the legal fees.
Exactly. Pay for the legal fees and keep going, because you have to keep pushing to fight the battle. And you'll come to realize and learn that most of the women and others who get into the criminal justice system do not even have that kind of money,
the resources, yeah,
to fight this battle case. And that's why in most instances justice will not prevail, because you do not have legal representation and you do not have the money to bribe the officers to get you off the justice system. And in most instances, the mills of justice in our country grind too slowly, such that by the time you're getting to a sentencing or, you know, the judgment, it's way past your resources could take you.
You've already spent years in prison,
yes.
Just in the remand section
yes.
itself, before you even start your sentencing
your
period,
sentence.
and those years are not counted.
Exactly. But as luck would have it, as I was battling the court case, that's the time I got married, and also got blessed with my firstborn daughter, Shiko. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. We have to take a quick break. Make sure that you keep it tuned here, though, at TVC Kenya. When we come back, more of Teresa and her story.